I've longed for this day. Here I am, married to an older, overweight woman for money. Yet now, as we held each other close, I found myself enveloped by the warmth and softness of her skin. Unable to suppress the feelings welling up inside me, I released them onto her. My name is Mike Harrison. I'm a 23-year-old entry-level corporate employee. I graduated from college just a year ago. I've been doing reasonably well at my current job, and I haven't made any major mistakes. But there's one big problem. It's my scholarship repayment. My parents fell and were injured just before I went to college, so I had to go through college without their financial support. As a result, scholarship repayments weighed heavily on each month, approximately $300 a month. That's a substantial amount for someone like me who just started working and isn't making much money. My take-home salary is about $1,900. Rent is $500. Groceries are $200, plus utilities like water, and gas add up to around $100. After adding necessary expenses like my phone bill and clothes, my living expenses roughly amount to $1,100. Plus, considering the insurance I pay for, my parents, and the $300 for scholarship repayment, it easily amounts to $1,500. And that's after cutting corners by living in a cheap apartment, using a budget smartphone, and cooking my own meals. I could easily spend up to $1,700 if I'm not careful. I tried to save whatever is left over, but unexpected expenses came up occasionally, and my bank balance rarely increased. I couldn't afford the things I like, and falling ill would be disastrous. If it weren't for the $300 scholarship repayments, I could have some fun and peace of mind. I often found myself resenting the situation, but I made this choice, so I have to make the payments. It might be called a scholarship, but it's still a debt, so I can't quit my job and have no choice but to work hard. That day, I was gnawing on some cheap bread that was about to expire with a sigh. This made it 7 straight days of the same bread. I was starting to get sick of it, but I couldn't afford anything but cheap, filling food, so I had no choice. What's up, Mike? Eating bread again today. Probably because I let out a big sigh, someone slapped me on my back. Looking around, it was our CEO. The company I work for is usually the type where the CEO wants to go to the field site. It's a small company, and the boss knows all the employees' faces and names. You could say it's a homey kind of company. Ahaha, things are tight this month. Oh, is that a complaint about your wages being too low? No, that's not it. In my case, I have scholarship repayment. The boss seemed to understand and nodded, clearing up the misunderstanding. I was the only one who joined the company last year and this year, so I had no close peers or juniors. That's why occasionally the boss or my supervisor would come over to chat like this, and all I could do was give a wry smile because, in simple terms, I was saying I'm having a tough time because I'm in the middle of repaying a debt. Well, no one could help me with that. Then the boss started humming thoughtfully. Is something wrong? Well, I was planning to talk about it anyway. The boss awkwardly brought up a topic to me. Apparently, the boss's business associate, well, a chairman who has been taking care of us since long ago, was looking for a marriage partner for his daughter. The daughter is turning 40 this year. Honestly, even with matchmaking dates, she couldn't seem to find a partner. She really wanted to get married and even said, "If you marry me, I'll give you all my savings." So because of his reputation, the boss brought the issue up with me. To be honest, she's nearly twice my age. She's 40 this year, and I don't think children are on the table. That's why I wanted to just go through the motions of discussing it. The boss said there was no need for me to take it, of course. I had no intention of doing it. After all, I had never met this person, and I love kids, so I wanted to have children in the future. So I just thought of it as a performance for the sake of the CEO's reputation to show that I'd heard him out. I was supposed to have accepted it as that. At least, I thought so. What? Mom collapse. That night, I received a phone call. My mom, who had been sick, had collapsed and was admitted to the hospital. My dad's income had decreased due to the after effects of an injury, and there's almost no savings left at home. Without money to cover until the insurance came through, I impulsively transferred my meager savings to my parents. As it turned out, my mom's life wasn't in danger, but this incident put not only my scholarship but also my livelihood in jeopardy. What should I do? Looking at my nearly zero balance, I fell into despair. I should have consulted with a local authority if I thought clearly, but I wasn't thinking straight at the time, and before I knew it, I was contacting the boss. 2 days later, on my day off, I was invited to an upscale traditional restaurant. I never thought I would visit such a place in my lifetime, but today was the day to meet the chairman's daughter. So that's why I, a commoner, am here. It's formally a matchmaking date, but I had already decided to marry her. I didn't have money, and I needed money immediately to help my parents. If it's for that, marrying someone I don't even love was a small price to pay. She's a 40-year-old woman. I would just think of it as living with an aunt from my family. That's what I was thinking. Nice to meet you. I'm Jane Watson, she said. Pleased to meet you, I replied. The woman I decided to marry was absurdly, well, no offense, but she was obese. She must have been wearing nice clothes, but they seemed ready to burst at the seams, and fat was spilling out here and there. Honestly, I was taken aback. I wondered how one would have to eat or live to end up with such a figure. She was beyond belief, but I couldn't turn back now. I'm Mike Harrison. Nice to meet you. Let's drop the formalities. It's too formal, she said. It seemed that Jane had a strong personality, and I was incredibly anxious about whether I could handle this in the long run. In the end, everything proceeded smoothly, and we decided to live together. I was used to living alone, but my old renowned apartment was indeed too small for 2 people. Plus, she's the chairman's daughter. As expected, Jane took care of all the living expenses, and I ended up moving into a high-end apartment. The view was great. It was spacious. It was the best. I was a bit apprehensive about living with someone else, but we weren't close even if we were a couple. It seemed she didn't expect my love either, and she even said, "You can think of me as a family aunt, and we'll have separate bedrooms. Thank you for marrying me." The day after we finished moving, we submitted our marriage form. I started my own household, but it didn't feel real at all. Thanks to Jane, I didn't have to worry about money, and I could live in a nice house. But I decided to think of it as living in a shared house and take care of my own stuff. I've been quite reliant on Jane financially. I thought I should at least try to live independently. Good morning, Mike. Breakfast is ready. Surprisingly, Jane was quite a homely person. Her cooking skills were on par with an average person like me, and she seemed to really enjoy doing all the household chores. She did mess up sometimes, but it was nothing more than laughable. Her homemaking skills were hardly what you'd expect from a lady of her standing. Why is it so much fun when it's the same thing day after day? It seemed to me that she was doing so many things with a twinkle in her eye. What surprised me the most was her cooking. I had assumed the servings would be XXL sized, but she never made more than enough to fill me up, and she didn't eat that much either. I'd initially thought she was a big eater, but that didn't seem to be the case. You know, my dad is overprotective of me. I think it's because my mom passed away early, but he has a maid do everything for me, so I can't do the things I want to. And he always serves me so much food. Since the maid went through the trouble of making it, I always tried to eat it all. She told me one day while we were having a beer on our day off. It seemed that she had been brought up with an excessive amount of care, and it was a burden to her. I thought the only way to escape from my father's hold was to get married. But look at me, right? I couldn't find a partner, so I had no choice but to use money. I'm sorry to have saddled you with a woman like me. When the dust settles, you can divorce me if you want. Please just let me stay by your side for a while. Jane, looking quite apologetic, said this to me. Regardless of the situation, Jane was always calm, able to see things objectively, and I felt that, as a human being, she was a woman with a strong core. Perhaps her weight gain was also due to parental oppression. Jane has been prepared to be discarded by me someday. That's why. She's living this free lifestyle now, her eyes sparkling. The first feeling I had for her was sympathy. I was able to live freely because my parents were laissez-faire, but she didn't have that luxury. If being with me allows her to be free, even if just for a bit, I wanted to support her. Although in the current situation, I was the one being supported. But it would be a lie to say that I had no affection for her. Jane was what you might call an inclusive woman. She'd console me when I made a mistake at work or was feeling down. I felt a maternal presence from her. I guess I felt incredibly at ease. I wanted to be by her side, and before I knew it, I was in love with her. Seeing Jane trying new things, sometimes failing, sometimes succeeding, and being overjoyed. Jane, despite her appearance, was very beautiful. So much so that I didn't care about her physical appearance. And then 5 years passed. Jane and I hadn't divorced. Instead, we had become a very lively couple. When we walked around town, passers-by couldn't help but look our way. We stood out a lot, but such scenes had become a part of our daily life. Look at her, she's like a model. She's gorgeous. A group of high school girls giggled and chattered as they passed by us. Hearing their voices, Jane shrugged and said, "I'm a bit too old to be a model, don't you think?" Yes, the person the high school girls had complimented as a model was Jane. Now, Jane exuded a mature aura and beauty, elegantly wearing a tight skirt and high heels. Why did this happen? In short, living with me liberated her from stress, reduced her food intake, and household chores made her move around more. She naturally lost weight. Not only that, she even started going to the gym, saying, "I was worried about doing intense exercise before." And before we knew it, she acquired a truly beautiful figure. You wouldn't believe she was 45. In fact, I now look bare in comparison. Scenes like this reminded me once again of the horror of stress. But sometime later, Jane became bedridden. She stopped going to the gym and even struggled with meals. I was afraid, thinking she was sick, when I heard Jane's voice from the bedroom. We basically sleep in the same bedroom now, but when we want to be alone or are unwell, we use the beds in our separate rooms. Lately, Jane had been spending all her time in her own room. "Mike, I have something important to discuss with you." "Oh, okay." Jane's frail voice. She mentioned going to the hospital today. Could it be a serious illness? With shaking hands, I braced myself and entered her bedroom. I would try not to be surprised no matter what she told me. I was sure she was the one suffering. Entering the bedroom, I found Jane lying down, looking in pain. Seeing her slowly sitting up, I couldn't help but ask in a voice close to tears, "Are you okay?" Shoot, I didn't want to make her worry. Biting my lip, I regretted my words. Seeing my reaction, Jane said, "I'm sorry to worry you. I went for a checkup today, had them look inside me." Then, she handed me a picture printed in black and white with a small circle marked on it. Inside the circled area, there was a small dot. "Wait, is this?" Yes, It's an echograph. I knew what Jane was trying to say. So this meant, I'm pregnant. What? Really? I let out a stunned exclamation. Of course, Jane and I had shared nights together, so there was a possibility. But I was sure the chance of a natural pregnancy at 45 was about 1%. The doctor said it was a miracle. Jane revealed with tears of joy welling up in her eyes. It turned out that all the recent discomfort she had been experiencing was morning sickness, and there was nothing else wrong with her health. I had given up on having a child, but knowing that our baby, is growing inside me, I'm so happy. I've been longing for this day, she admitted before breaking down in tears. I gently, very gently, held her in my arms. I could feel her warmth and hear her heartbeat, and I found myself tearing up too. Thank you, Jane. Truly, thank you. I am so happy right now. We two, both of us grown adults, wailed pitifully. Sure, there are risks associated with late-life pregnancy, and undoubtedly we're about to face all sorts of challenges. But none of that matters now. All we want is to share the joy of welcoming this new life. Our thoughts turn to the even happier future that's sure to come.